Welcome to my channel where learning art is fun. I'm Sarah, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I colour in this picture of the Converse shoe that we drew on Tuesday's video, and I'm going to be trying out these pencils, which are the Mars Luma Graph black pencils, which I've had for a while and been keen to try out. So if you're ready, let's go!
So here's a sneaky peek at how the drawing of the Converse shoe turned out, and if you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment and subscribe to my channel. But before I go into the drawing of the shoe, I just wanted to review these Mars Luma Graph black pencils by Staedtler and see how they compare to my regular graphite pencils by Faber-Castell. So I've drawn out this little chart and I've separated it into the two different types of pencil, and I've pulled out from my Faber-Castell graphite pencil kit the 4 grades of pencil to see how they compare. So to start with, I'm just laying down the graphite on my paper and going from dark to light. And obviously graphite lays down pretty smoothly, and you can transition pretty easily and nicely between the dark and the light, and you can layer as well. And you see as well as I go from the 2B to the 4B to the 6B and 8B how the pencil gets darker and softer as you get into the higher numbers. So the Mars Luma Graph come in a tin of 6, so you get 2 2Bs, 2 4Bs, a 6B and an 8B. But how do they compare to our graphite pencils? Well, to start with, the Luma Graph black pencils have graphite in them, but they also have carbon in them. So I'm hoping that with this set, I'm going to be able to lay down some really dark colours without getting that graphite shine. And as I lay them down, I do notice that the colours are slightly darker, but they're not as soft as the graphite pencils. So layering is possible, but it takes a few more layers to get down to cover that tooth of the paper compared with a regular graphite pencil. But as we go on to the 6B and 8B, you can really see the difference in colour. They really lay down lovely and dark and black. But how do they blend? So I'm just going to test this out with this paper stump, and regular graphite pencils are very smooth to sort of blend, and you can transition easily and smoothly between those darker shades and the lighter shades with no problem at all. So how do the Luma Graph black compare? Well, they do blend, and you can move the carbon graphite mix around quite easily, but I would say in my opinion it's not as easy to blend the darker shades like the 6B and the 8B as it is to blend the graphite pencils. So you can cover the tooth of the paper, but it does take perhaps a little bit more work. Now that might be to do with the paper I'm using, but now I am going to try out and see how they erase. So does that darker colour and the carbon content affect the erasability? Well, on the left hand side I am just going down with my Mono Zero eraser to see that with the graphite pencil you can remove it quite easily back to the white of the paper. As you get to the softer pencils, it does take a little bit more work, but it can be done. And obviously the lighter areas that I'm doing now are easier to erase than the darker areas. But what I did notice was that certainly with the 6B and the 8B, it was harder to erase back to the white of the paper. And as for shine, that was the big issue for me and the thing that I wanted to try these pencils out for. And certainly the Mars Luma Graph pencils have less shine, and you can really get the darkest darks dark without that irritating graphite shine. So let's get into the drawing of the Converse shoe then. And I began by using the softest pencil, so that was the 8B, and just laying down in circular movements with a sharp pencil the darkest area of my shoe. So one thing I did like about these pencils, as well as the darkness of them, was the fact that you can sharpen them to a fine point. With some pencils, say like if we compare to charcoal pencils for example, they are a lot softer because you haven't got that graphite element in them, and sharpening them can be a bit tricky. and you can't get as fine a point as you can with these pencils, so that was a real plus for me. So one thing that I did say about erasability, the reason that I didn't go in with a white gel pen on the areas of the stitching, because I had considered that, was that I wasn't convinced that I could erase back to the white of the paper. So when I'm filling in the black of the shoe, it did take me a little bit longer because I decided to go around each of the individual stitches with my pencil rather than go in with my white gel pen and do them on the top at the end. But if you wanted to and you'd rather do that and have less time spent on your drawing, then you can quite easily layer your white gel pen over this pencil. That works really well. But I felt for this piece that I wanted the stitching to look more integral, more part of the shoe, and I thought that would look more effective if I took the time to go round those individual stitches. So it was a bit more fiddly, but I think the end result was better than if I'd gone in with a white gel pen at the end over the top of the pencil. So I was really impressed with the darkness of these pencils, and they really do come out black on the paper, and I think this is a real advantage over regular graphite pencil, because although you can layer pencils to get darker colours and minimise the amount of shine you get from that smooth graphite, these pencils you didn't really have to worry about that as much. You could get a really nice dark black colour without having the worry of that graphite shine. So in that way it's a lot quicker to lay down that really dark value without having the disadvantage of any shine, or at least it did have, obviously does have some graphite in it, but it was a lot less of an issue than I have with my regular pencils if I'm trying to get down the same value. So these pencils are really nice, I do really like them, and I'll certainly be using them again. I think the main advantage for me is the darkness and the fact that if you compare them to maybe a charcoal pencil, you can get a nice fine sharp point without having to resharpen regularly. And although it's harder to erase if you do light layers of the pencil, you can still erase it, it's just not maybe as easy as a regular graphite pencil. And I also thought that one of the advantages of these pencils are, because of the graphite element in them, you can still use them on fairly smooth paper. So if we were to compare again to charcoal pencils, you would need to have a paper with a bit more of a tooth, so a bit more of a rough surface to kind of take that charcoal off your pencil and have it go onto your paper nicely. So these are a bit more flexible with that. Now I'm just going on to the lighter areas of the shoe, and I'm using my paper stump to do this, and I'm really just picking up some of that pencil that I've blended with my paper stump and laying it onto the areas that are lighter, so the areas like the laces. So I don't actually have to lay down another layer of lighter pencil, I'm just literally using some of that pencil that I've lifted off from those darker areas. And that did speed up the whole process. So I'm kind of blending the darker areas and then using some of that pencil to shade in those lighter areas and the toe of the Converse shoe. So something else that I was going to mention about these pencils is that you can see I've got a piece of paper under my hand. I was a little bit concerned that obviously with that charcoal element in the pencils that they would smudge quite a lot, but actually I didn't find this to be too much of a problem. I mean, it's a good habit to get into, to have something underneath your hand to protect your work with whatever material you're using, but I didn't have the problem that I was expecting with smudging so much. So if you were using regular charcoal, you really have to be careful not to put your hand over your work because it does smudge a lot easier. The combination of the carbon with the graphite kind of prevented that from being too much of a problem. So I think you really have got the best of both worlds with these pencils. You can do all the things that you can do with a regular pencil, but you've also got the advantages of carbon or charcoal as well. So if you're thinking of getting some, I would seriously consider it, because there's something that I would definitely use again, and especially if you're filling in darker areas and you don't like that graphite shine that you get when you do that with a regular pencil. So we've nearly come to the end. Another thing I did like about these pencils is that when you're doing shadows, again, you can get a really dark without any of that shine, and you can get a real precision point for areas under the laces and in the small areas like around the laces, and obviously with the stitching on the shoes as well. So I think we're just coming to the end of the drawing now. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you've tried these pencils before and you've got some comments or something to suggest about them that I haven't covered, then please drop them in the comments box below and we can share that with everyone else if there's something I missed out. So now just finishing off the little fiddly bit with the pattern of the toes. And after this picture was done.
Well, that's all for today, Architects. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment and subscribe to my channel, and also don't forget to comment below if there's something you would like to see me draw next time. See you soon. Bye.